Hello everybody, welcome to Fruitful Trees. This is one of my Sapodilla trees. Sapodilla is a fruit that I've been talking about a lot lately. That's because it is Sapodilla season. This is also known as Niceberry or Niceboro or Chico Sapote. This is also called brown sugar fruit because most varieties taste like brown sugar. They have a caramel butterscotch flavor to them. Yes, brown sugar, caramel, and butterscotch. Wow. That's the wow factor of this amazing fruit. Now, there are several different varieties, and today I want to show you how to make sure you pick them ripe. We're going to look at the downsides of some of these varieties, or just the downsides of this tree in general, which there are a few, but there's more upsides than downsides. And then we'll take a look at some of the varieties. So, here we go. This variety is called the Alano Sapodilla tree. And on the Alano Sapodilla tree, as you can see, it is loaded. Now, the fruit on this tree is smaller than some of the other varieties, and also the tree can be kept smaller as well. What I find is the smaller the variety of the size of the fruit, the smaller the tree can be kept. So there's three basically dwarf or semi-dwarf varieties to Sapodilla. There's the Alano, which is technically not a dwarf because it'll grow super big if you let it, but it just grows slower than the other bigger varieties. But then there's the Silas Wood and also the Maycock varieties that will grow even slower than this. Now, if you let them, they'll get super big as well, but they grow at a smaller rate. Now, the Alano fruit is pretty small, but the Maycock fruit is even smaller. And the Silas Wood is about in between in the size. But those are three varieties. And then you have bigger varieties, bigger fruit, bigger tree, meaning it grows faster. And some of the varieties are Murano, Hacia, Butterscotch, Thomas, Giantia, and varieties like this. And I'll show you some of the trees and some of these varieties. There's even one called Ox, which is a big variety that I've tasted recently for the first time that I really love. Now, my personal favorite varieties might not be your personal favorite varieties because taste is subjective. But I love the most the Giantia. That one to me has the best taste. Now, there are several people that have told me if you blindfolded them and gave them a variety of Sapodilla, they would not be able to tell the difference. The reason is these all taste similar. They have that caramel, butterscotch, brown sugar flavor. So they all taste somewhat similar. However, when you become a fruit snob like me, you can tell the difference. And I can tell the difference even by looking at one, but I can also tell the difference in the taste. And I've never tasted one of these fruits that I didn't like, but I do like some more than the others. I like the Giantia, excellent, the most. I love the Thomas. I love the Malish, also known as the Molek. I really love all of them. The Marina I tasted recently, I really loved. I love all of them, but those are some of my favorite. Now, how do you know when this fruit is ripe? Well, we can look here, and there's several different ways to tell when the fruit is ripe or not ripe. So we'll put this right here, and we'll show you. The first way is if it's still hard. If the fruit is hard, it's not ripe. And if you pick the fruit unripe, like we will this one, I'll waste it for the sake of the video, you'll see a white sap come out. That means it wasn't picked ripe. Another thing is if you see this little tip here, it's very pointy. That means it's not ready yet. If you feel it and it feels sandy, that means it's not ready to be picked yet. If it has a sandy, when it starts getting smooth, that's when it's ready to be picked. And the most common way people tell if it's ripe is if you scratch it. And there I scratch it and you see it's still a green color. Now when that green color starts to turn and get a little bit darker, maybe more like a brownish, then you know it might be ready to pick, even though it's a little bit harder. And you'll always know if you picked it at the right stage or not. If you pick it and a lot of white sap comes out, it's not ready. This one is not ready yet. Now, these will ripen on the tree and even fall off by themselves when they're ready. And that's the way I personally prefer to have them in my own house. So one of the things I do is you can shake the tree, and if they're ready, they'll just fall off, and they might fall off in the wind as well. Now, if you're not checking them every day when you get them like that, an animal or some ants might get to them and eat them. But that's my preference of when to pick them. Shake the tree and see what falls off. but you can pick them like this. Now, I know this one's not ready yet. It's hard. It's still sandy. It has a little needle at the bottom here. I just took off that little needle. And I just know it's not ripe yet for those reasons. But I'm going to pick it and show you the white sap that's going to come out of here when I pick it. And that's more confirmation that this wasn't fully ripe. Even so, it'll still ripen off the shelf, but it's still ideally to pick them at the right stage. So let's pick this now. Look, you see all that white sap? That is sticky sap that you don't want on your hands. That is a perfect sign. I sacrificed this fruit for the sake of this video. That is not ready. That is a sticky, latexy sap that's not ready. So I'll put this on the side and wait. Hopefully it'll get ready. Sometimes if you pick them too unripe, they won't ever ripen. But sometimes if they're just a little unripe, they'll ripen. But when you get the sap like that, you know it's not ripe. And that's a good way to learn. And in time, you'll be able to pick it at the right stage. I don't believe there's any on here that are ripe now. But I'll just put this one here for now and try to get that later when it is more ripe. So in today's video, I am going to show you several different varieties. We're going to go visit Tropicalace's farms, and Alex is going to show us two of the major downsides of having this tree. And they're not really a downside, but we'll hear from him about that. We're going to go into Niger Gardens, and they have a bunch of varieties. So we'll look at some of the varieties they have there that he's going to pick for me as well. And we're also going to maybe do some tastings here as well. So get ready. This is a fruit that fruits pretty much all season on certain varieties. Some varieties a little bit different than the other, but it's an excellent fruit to have. Now, one thing I don't like about these smaller varieties is they don't all ripen at the same time. The bigger the tree, of course, you have more fruit, and if you shake it, several might fall off, but they won't all ripen at the same time. So it's more like a snack than a meal. Now, the bigger varieties is a little bit different because only one fruit, which might be 3 times the size of these or even bigger, you can kind of get full of 1 or 2 of them. So that'll make a difference. So depending on the space you have, these trees can grow really big if you let them, but you can keep them on the smaller side. If you crowded them in, they'll grow slower. You can keep them trimmed, and they're just a wonderful fruit to have. Now, some varieties, they're oval shaped, like a small football, and some are round shaped. And many of these varieties will shape in both on the same tree, round and oval. So that's something interesting. And yeah, when we say it's dwarf, some trees just grow quicker or slower than others. Now, so I don't see any ripe fruit on here right now. Let's try shaking the tree. Okay, nothing fell off, so there's nothing ripe on there right now. But this is Sapodilla. So let's go to some of the other farms and check them out. And I'll put a playlist below. And on the playlist below, we could look at some of the other videos I've done on these varieties recently. I recommend this tree. It's very disease resistant, water tolerant, and also drought tolerant. A great tree. So here we go, and let's hear what some others have to say about some of these varieties and also the tree in general.
You were asking about the different type of Sapodilla we have, and I just noticed we have, this is an ox Sapodilla. It looks a little bit roundish, big size. And then these are Merinos right next to it. In fact, there are 2 Merino trees here. They're a combination of round and oval shaped. I haven't tasted either one to give you a good feeling of how they taste. I may have tasted it along with some others and not knowing what I took. So
all right, so these are all smaller trees, so they must have been planted much.
Probably 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah,
so
4 years ago,
growers.
possibly 15-gallon.
15 gallons. So if you had a 3-gallon, it would be even longer.
Yeah, it would have been taken a little longer. I think we started getting fruit last year on these. This year, the production is a little more. So
and
I'm guessing
this one's an ox?
That one's an ox, yeah. So this is the one you wanted to try, right?
Well, I want to try the ox, Merino, and Hacia.
Okay, we got them all in the same row here.
So now, you know, the ox is supposed to be really big fruit. You know that, right?
That's what I'm noticing. I didn't even know we had an ox until you started.
How do you know this is an ox?
This is an ox, yeah. Yeah, this one's an ox. You can see the fruit is fairly big. I mean,
Okay.
this one is pretty big. You can see this one.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Look at that.
what you were looking at probably
Look
smaller
at that.
ones.
Look how big the ox
Yeah.
is. Okay.
And then there's one up here that looks like
Yeah, so
there's
this is
some
a
up on
big
the
one.
top.
I just came from somewhere that had a big tree.
Very similar to it, but
yeah.
a big size. Okay.
And this is the Marina.
This is the
and
Merino.
Hacia.
That one's Merino, and I think that one's Hacia. I think a little bit smaller. We got a bigger tree over there.
Oh, those are pretty good size fruit.
Yeah, these are Hacias.
That's a pretty good size fruit.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll give you a sampling for you to take and
Great.
see which one.
All right, well, we'll test all these out in the video and taste them all. All right, here we are with Larry, and he has several Sapodilla trees. Larry, what varieties do you have?
Well, I've got the Alano, the Morena, the Ox, I won't pronounce the entire name because I probably could not, and then a little Silas Wood down there in the end, and then I have a Butterscotch in the back.
Okay, before we get to these here, what's your opinion about the Butterscotch?
It's good. It doesn't produce a lot of mango, a lot of fruit, a lot of Sapodilla.
That's what I hear. Okay, so tell us about these varieties. This one's the Alano.
Yes, very unusual this year. Last year it produced for months and months and months. This year it had a tremendous bloom all at one time. There was probably 500 fruit on that tree. It's still got 100 fruit on it. I'm getting 20 or 30 a day. They didn't get very big on size because I didn't prune them off. I should have thinned the crop earlier, but they're still very, very good. I just shake it, and you can walk up to them and just squeeze them. They just fall off in your hand.
And how close did you plant all of these varieties?
Oh, they're about 6 foot apart.
6 foot, okay. And what's the second one here?
That's a Morena. It just finished up. It's got 1 or 2 left up there, but it's a little bit larger. It's got some of the red color inside. But I really enjoyed that one. But if you were to blindfold me, I couldn't tell the difference.
Really? Okay.
Mangoes, yes, but Sapodillas, no.
Okay, so that's a Morena, and okay, and this one?
That's the Ox.
That's the Ox. That's the other big one, folks, that I haven't tasted yet, but it's the other big one that I'm looking to try because the size of it. So tell us about the Ox.
Well, it's very, very good. I had a friend that lived down near Richard Wilson at Excalibur on Fernley Road there, and he gave me a little scion off it about 7, 8 years ago. So I grafted that one myself. So I always like to have trees that I'd grafted, and it's just very good. But this is by far the best crop I've ever had on it. There's probably 100 fruit on there. The limbs are starting to break, and it just started ripening about a week ago. I was just checking them, so you could take some home today. I'm sure they'll ripen in 4 or 5 days.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you. So, are these easy or difficult to graft, the Sapodillas?
Fairly easy. You have to worry about the latex in there. I use gloves when I do it. It's easier than the Mamey and some of the other Sapotacea, but it kind of still is very easy. This is it's fairly easy.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay, and what produces better out of the three? The Alano, the Morena, and the Ox?
Definitely the Alano.
The Alano. Okay. What about between the Ox and the Murano? What produces better of those two?
Or Morena. Well, the Morena does, but
Okay.
you see how the strange shape. Last year it had such a crop, it lost a lot of limbs.
Oh, did it?
They break off pretty easy. I don't know if this limb is from last year. You can see they just hang down.
So when they break off, does that harm the tree, or it just harms your future crop?
No, it just harms that particular limb, and they still hold on to their fruit and ripen, even though they're broken and the limbs are broken in half.
I love to see how close you planted them and how they grow together, because this is wonderful. It's a nice hedge and excellent example. So about 6 feet apart.
Yes,
Beautiful
if you don't do a block, so they get their sun. I keep these down low enough so it still gets the sun out of the southern sky, so they all get full sun during the day, and that's the key. If they were to plant fruit on the other trees on the other side, they'd be blocked out by the shade.
Excellent. And what's the last one you have here?
That's a Silas Wood. He passed away before I visited his property. I went on a Chris Rollins tour back in the 90s down there around Chrome Avenue, and Mrs. Wood.
I've been to his property.
Mrs. Wood was there, and she gave us a tour of the property.
I've been to them since the house has been sold. So this is known as a dwarf variety. So where is it? Look at that.
That's a perfect one right
Perfect.
there.
We'll get to try that. Perfect. So here is the variety here. So this is a dwarf variety. So
yes.
It's small. Look how small it is.
Yes, very small.
Now it will get bigger, it just grows smaller. That's slower. That's what they mean by dwarf.
Unfortunately, this is not the way to grow bananas. These are dwarf namois that sort of walk this way. So as soon as this is done, I'm going to cut these back to give this. You can see it's leaning, and it's just being forced down by the banana trees.
Wow. So Silas Wood, we'll get to try that. Thank you, Larry. But this is, what could you tell us about this? Like you said, if you were blindfolded, you couldn't taste the difference between all of these 4 varieties?
That's me personally. I'm sure some people could. Same with the butterscotch. I don't particular.
Now, even though this is a dwarf, is this pretty much the size of the fruit? Is it traditionally a little bit bigger than the Alano, or the same size?
It's a little bit smaller, actually.
Smaller, okay.
Yeah, the Alanos, that's a very, very strange year, but it's just because there was hundreds and hundreds of fruit on there, and I didn't thin them out, so they stayed relatively small. And like the Alano, the shape of the Sapodillas are both round and egg-shaped. It's hard, there's no rhyme or reason for it. It happens on the same limb.
On similar trees, yeah, that's what I've noticed.
Whereas the Morena is pretty much all egg-shaped, and the ox is pretty much all round, as you can see.
Yeah, the size of the ox is very impressive.
I don't know how it compares. I've seen your videos on the Gigantica, is it called?
Gigantica, yeah.
And I've never tasted one of those, but...
Well, that's why I want to do this. I'm making a video right now on different varieties and the taste. So this is a gift, and that'll be a gift to taste them on the same video and compare them. So, and then we're going to try, see what else.
I grew up here in Palm Beach County. My grandfather lived next door, and he had a giant Sapodilla tree. And I think it was just called brown sugar back then. But the Sapodillas back in the 50s and 60s were very gritty. It's like eating sandpaper.
I like the grit, actually.
Oh, okay. They have those.
Actually just got a brown sugar variety.
Those large Sapodillas at the mounts up front of the garden, not in the parking lot, but up at those 50 or 60 foot talls, planted by Mr. Mounts himself. They have that grit to them.
Yeah, they're so great. And I just got a brown sugar, I think, because I like the grit, and it's hard to find those.
Yeah, it's an old variety. Now that you have these, most of these I think are developed in Mexico.
Yes. So,
except for the Silas Wood.
Oh yeah, that one's down here.
Homestead.
Some of them are from the Giantia, from Nicaragua, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Beautiful. All right, Larry, thank you so much for showing us your trees. And there you go, everybody, a great example. If you have a small house, this is great tree to plant up front. Not a lot of people walk by traffic. They don't ripen all at the same time, so they can't just grab them all, or they won't. And most people don't even know what they are. And look how they can grow together.
Oh, I have people stop all the time and ask, and I just give them a bag. And it's just a worry-free tree compared to everything else we have with the avocados and the mangoes and the lychee. Everything's got a problem to it except, so far, the Sapodilla.
Sure. Do you water these on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay. The thing is, you don't only have them for sale locally, you ship these out.
Absolutely. We ship a lot of Sapodillas, through our website. Because the demand outside is pretty high. So.
Now, I know for your average demand that you get, people just want to get Sapodilla. But for my viewers, I know you don't normally do this, but would you consider if they put in the special instructions or somewhere on the order, if they say the variety they want, you'll break it down for them?
Try to give them. On our website, we do say that we do not give you, whatever comes, we're going to give it to you. So, but if there is a certain request, somebody says, I want Hacia, I want Merino or Ox or whatever, or Alano, we will try to honor the request, but we can't guarantee, because the production is not heavy production on certain types. So we'll try our best to give you that. But if you don't write anything down, any comments down or any instructions, on your order, then
All right,
you
so
might get a
folks,
mixture of them.
put a comment on your order. I'm going to put the link below in the description to place the order, and put a comment that if he has available, you'd like to try whatever variety you'd like to try. Great, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we got the Mame guy and the Mango guy, and here we are talking about Sapodillas.
Well, we're both Mame guys and we're both mango guys.
Yeah, I know.
I have some more, like, hiding. So I'll have to check tomorrow
Amazing,
when I do inventory.
amazing.
But there's a lot of amazing Sapodilla fruit out there. I still think butterscotch is like one of the best I've ever had.
Yeah, I like that one quite a bit.
I haven't tried. I think I did try Gigantea.
Yeah.
Last year.
No, I got you on video trying it last month.
Oh yeah. I thought it was really good too.
This and Gigantea, the best 1-2 punch.
I gotta just give you one that's like not ripe yet. Let it ripen and then eat it like as soon as it's starting to turn.
Sounds
soft.
good.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
So that's an original tree from here.
Yeah. Don't know
So
where it came
Julian's
from.
gonna get some budwood now, so he has some in stock. But these are the only 2 people on the planet that might have this
That
tree
are
for sale.
propagating it. That are propagating
Yeah,
it.
that
I'm
are
lucky to
propagating
get.
it. Other people have it. I mean, it's been grafted in waves over the years. So
I mean, you gave me one about 5 years ago
I
or
don't
something,
remember. It was a
and
while ago.
it was like a little 3-gallon. Now it's like 7-8 feet tall, and I can still I harvest bud. I've been harvesting budwood off of that, all this time, but I can only harvest so much at a time.
And all the times I've been there, I never tasted it.
Well, it hasn't really produced fruit until now. I have like a little fruit on there now.
So how long did that take? How many years?
From the beginning till now, probably like 5 years. 5 years.
Wow.
I left it in a pot a long time. I think I planted it a couple of years ago.
Now, if you plant it in the ground sooner, does it grow faster?
Yeah, I mean, it has more room for the roots to expand.
So 1 gallon, a 3 gallon is fine to put in the ground?
Well, we planted most of those as 1 or 3 gallons. Yeah, I mean, that would have been the size that we would have.
Is there any negative impact of planting them that small?
I
Sure,
remember,
they're more delicate.
yeah, they can get root rot a lot easier. Yeah,
And,
you gotta keep your eye on it. Make sure it doesn't get too much water. Make sure it gets enough water. So it's like a balancing act. I just tell people to leave it in the pot until it grows a couple inches more, and then after that, put it in a 3 gallon or put it in the ground and tie a bamboo to it so the wind
So-
doesn't beat it up.
Planting a 1 gallon, like the 1 gallon I got from you, if I put that in the ground now, what are we looking, 4 or 5 years, or?
Probably 3 to 4 years. 5 would be on the long side.
Or sooner.
But,
I mean, I've seen
yeah.
Sapodillas flower in a 3 gallon.
Yeah, I mean, I've had, especially the more precocious types like Maycock and Silas Wood will fruit in a little 3 gallon. I have 1 gallon that actually had a fruit on it just recently. I noticed. I think it was a Maycock. So some of the more precocious types can start to fruit at that size. Alanos can do it too. The other varieties take a little longer, and I would say Thomas usually probably takes a little longer based on our experience planting. I don't know how many we planted, 4 or 5 or 6 of them, something like that. So we got to see how long it took them to fruit from 1 or 3 gallon, and I don't recall. They weren't all, some of them were 1s, some of them were 3s. But I think most of them took anywhere from 3 to 4 years.
And fertilize the heck out of it.
Yeah, the University of Florida IFAS has a good page for Sapodilla, and in terms of describing how to take care of it, nutritional requirements, and so forth. So if you're going to grow a Sapodilla tree, I recommend following UREF's guideline for Sapodilla in the Florida home landscape. That's usually what we tell customers.
Now, the 1 gallon you put in the ground, I mean, you're talking about fertilizing if it's in a pot, but if it's in the ground,
Underground too.
fertilize it in the ground.
Yeah, they certainly benefit from nutrition when they're in the ground, especially if the ground doesn't have much nutrition to begin with. So we give ours lots of mulch too, and organic matter. We'll dump mango slop around them too. All kind, whatever we can to help amend the soil a bit. They do fine in our sand. They're not too picky about soil. Like avocados can be picky about soil, but giving them a little bit of extra nutrition does help push them along, because young Sapodilla trees, regardless of the variety, usually grow slow.
Yeah.
Even vigorous saps, right?
Right.
They start out slow.
Their juvenile stage is very slow.
Yeah.
And then once they get out of it, they just shoot up like a rocket.
Yeah. Unless they're one of the dwarf ones. But stuff like Hasha and Morena,
Mullets.
and Molish, like those are aggressive. And once they get beyond a certain stage, they start to take
How
off.
often should you fertilize them?
Once a month.
Yeah, University of Florida's chart says, I think theirs might be bi-monthly, or I don't remember. It might be actually quarterly.
You could do every 4 months with 839, and the 839 is a tablespoon per every foot of height the tree has. So if your tree is like 1 foot tall, it's like 1 tablespoon of the granular stuff. But before you do that, you don't really fertilize a tiny tree with granular. What you do is use the soluble fertilizer like 20-20-20 or all-purpose Miracle-Gro, which is like a blue greenish powder. You get 2 spoons of that, put it in a gallon of water, mix it up really good, and then pour it on the roots. You may want to like not pour the whole gallon on a small tree, use it for something else, but at least 3 or 4 cups on the root area once a month of the soluble fertilizer, like the 20-20-20, is just it's great stuff. It's like giving like an IV for plants. And then the granular stuff is more for an established tree.
All right. Any natural diseases that bother these trees, or they're pretty good?
No, I think that the biggest problem I see with Sapodilla in Florida is piercing sucking insects like scale and mealybugs on them, and then you'll often see some sooty mold on their leaves because of that. That's really easy to treat. Like some horticultural oil usually takes care of that. A few applications. Otherwise,
is it even necessary to treat?
not. I mean, if the tree is covered in sooty mold, then there's an issue with photosynthesis a lot of the time, and then the tree isn't able to feed itself properly. But if there's a little bit and it's not really moving very much, sometimes you can just ignore it. I'm guilty of ignoring it before, on fruiting trees in the ground, and didn't really have an issue. They don't really get much fungus. They're pretty bulletproof. This is one of the reasons I favor them. We planted Sapodilla as one of our crops because we wanted something that didn't require a lot of inputs to fruit. Like, you don't have to do anything to these things. I mean, you can to get them to fruit better, grow better, whatever. But like, Sapodillas can be planted and forgotten about, and they'll fruit prolifically. So we wanted something like that fruited outside of mango season in case we needed to depend on the income of the fruit. And outside of mango season, if you're selling fruit, you're not making much money, right? You need to still pay your bills. So I like that about Sapodilla too, the fact that they fruit outside of the mango season. They're popular, really popular. One of the more popular tropical fruits, one of the more recognizable tropical fruits by people from the tropics. So people from all over the tropical world, they might have a different name for it, right? Like in Latin America, they usually call it Níspero, and not much else. Jamaicans call it naseberry. People from India will call it chiku or chiku sapote. So it flies under a bunch of different names. So when we're talking to people from those countries, we try to remember what they call it in their country. But it's valuable fruit. Like it commands a high price per pound, actually slightly higher than mango, but that's more due to the scarcity, I'd say. So, if you're like thinking of growing some other tropical fruits, Sapodilla trees are awesome. One of the downsides to Sapodillas I need to mention though is they have very brittle branches. And so under the weight of their own fruit or from a windstorm or a thunderstorm, it's very easy to get broken limbs on them. Very common to see it. It doesn't really even surprise me really when I come out and see a broken branch on them. So they can't really take a lot of weight. Sometimes you might have to brace up their limbs to keep them from breaking if they've got a lot of fruit. So that part about them can be, I guess, frustrating. Like if you've got a bunch of fruit on a branch and it breaks prematurely and then the fruit don't ripen right, that can be frustrating. So that's one potential downside to them, besides that some of them might not self-pollinate so great.
How do they do with drought?
Pretty well.
Pretty well.
The young ones need to be watered, okay? But once they're established, they handle drought pretty well. They can tolerate a little flooding, but they don't love it. They're probably not as flood tolerant as a mango tree, but they're not as bad as like a mamey or a loquat, or a papaya, where there's like a day of standing water and then they're toast. or an avocado for that matter. So they're pretty thrifty, I think, you know, about finding water when it's dry and getting the roots down in the water table. But they can get drought stress. I've seen it happen.
Do they grow well in the shade, or they need full sun?
No, they handle shade okay. In fact, they'll fruit better in shade than something like an avocado or a mango or whatever. You know, optimally they're in sun, and then they'll fruit better in the sun, just like almost every other fruit tree will. But they can tolerate some shade, and so they're also not super, they'll get micro deficiencies, but they're not super prone to them the way other fruit tree species are. So like you'll see sapodillas growing with no effort down in like the calcareous rock of Homestead, for example, with very alkaline soil, and they still do okay. So whereas like some other trees, like they hate those conditions sometimes. So sapodillas, they're not as picky about what kind of soil they're being grown in.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of two things: cold tolerance. How high? What do they grow?
I think mature sapodilla trees, like the size of the ones that we're looking at here, probably have better cold tolerance than a mango or a West Indian avocado, or definitely better than a mamey sapote or a jackfruit. But they're not cold tolerant trees, so don't think that you're going to grow them like outside in like, you know, North Florida or Georgia or something like that.
So what zone? Central Florida would be
Yeah,
the
you
limit,
can grow them in Central Florida for sure.
but not North Florida.
If you're going to grow them in North Florida, prepare to protect them.
Okay.
Because like once it gets down into the mid-20s or whatever, you know, even a tree like this is going to see some pretty serious dieback. So they're not, you know, like completely resistant to freeze damage, but they're a little better than some of the other tropical fruit trees that are commonly grown in Florida.
I know there are smaller varieties, and there are these two big varieties, and I know they can get super huge if you don't trim them.
Yeah.
But at this size, how close can you plant them and be acceptable?
Yeah, okay, these two are 16 feet apart from each other, which is the same spacing as the other trees on the row. And you can see that there's still some space, not a lot, but some space between the two trees still there. And there's still some space between this and the mamey sapote next to it. So we got away with 16 feet clearly. You might be able to go tighter than that, right? Because like some of you might be more aggressive in your pruning, have more time to prune them or whatever, and you can keep them a little tighter in your small yard or whatever. So I think you can grow them tighter than you can most mangoes, tighter than you can probably grow mameys. So that's a nice plus about them. They're
Very
not
cool.
as space constraining as some of the other ones either. So
Very nice. Very nice. Do you have to fertilize it or spray it at all?
no, not really. I mean, like you can if you want to increase their yields and stuff and get them to grow faster, but you don't have to. I don't feel you have to. University of Florida has a very good data sheet on Sapodilla, and if you want to know like what their fertilizing schedule is and you know so forth, they've got a reference chart on there for it based on the age of the tree. But in terms of necessity, they're actually pretty productive without really doing. I mean, you should water them when they're small to get them established, of course. I think that mulch helps them too. They seem to appreciate mulch, and you can probably keep mulching them like indefinitely. Whereas like with the mangoes, we stop mulching them after a certain age, but with these sapodillas, we keep mulching them. So I think that's a good thing for them, but otherwise you don't have to.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching my video here about the Sapodilla fruit. This is my Molek variety that I like a lot. Now, this tree is a very slow grower. It takes many years to get to a size like this. But in my opinion, it's worth the wait, especially if you have a smaller space or if you want to plant this in an area where there's a lot of foot traffic. Not enough people know what this is, or they can't pick them all ripe. So I wouldn't put a mango tree up in front of my house, but one of these that I would. As a matter of fact, I just planted another variety of these in front of my house. In most places that sell tropical fruit trees will sell the Sapodilla. They might have different varieties, but they do have this tree. So it's a common in tropical fruit nurseries. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Put your comments below. Have a great day and keep growing.